invited Bob Barnett, as you know, to speak to us because, for one thing, as I said, if you've ever been to commissioning, you heard students say, Bob Barnett changed my life. It's kind of like Merle and I set our timer for, okay, how long is it going to be before one of these kids says, Bob Barnett changed my life? So, but there's got to be, there's got to be something to that. So, when we're talking about classroom skills and kind of techniques and things that we need to use in the classroom, I think maybe the most important one is how do we relate to students in a way that makes them feel that we care about them, that we're giving them our positive regard. And I think Bob has big classes. He does this in big classes. And I actually had a chance to observe one of his classes. I can't remember exactly what I was doing in there, but he has a way of making everybody in the room feel like he's talking to that one person. And I think that's a real gift. And so I asked him to kind of share that with us and let us know how he does that.
I feel kind of uncomfortable, frankly, just to be honest with you. Because I've known a lot of you quite a while. Some more recently, we've gotten to know one another. Some we hardly know each other at all. I've had some of your children, oh my gosh.
We're now in England.
We're not, yeah. What? My kids have had some of you. Oh my gosh, Mike, you've had two of my children. So I actually got a sense of really who are really great teachers, and I appreciate what you guys do. And I found it kind of interesting that when Carolyn sent me this email, she actually said, I know what you're gonna say. That's not true? I know what I do.
Oh, I don't have anything to offer.
Because I really do, the reality is, I really don't. I've got to preface this with a story. And I'm way too transparent, I think. And some of you guys are gonna go, that explains a lot. But I was for a long time a professional musician. That's how I made my living. And I lived in this big, huge house with 8 other people. If I tell this story to my students, it never works very well because they don't even know the references. But it was kind of like a Grateful Dead kind of existence. Yeah, I knew you did. So, there's all this. And we had this one guy that none of us liked, but we got him because he was the only responsible person. He was not a musician. And as a matter of fact, we didn't like him, but we knew he'd make sure that the rent got paid. Now, this past summer, I got a call. I had this horrible habit, and I don't know quite why I am this way, but I just am reluctant to say to somebody, who is this? I just determined I'm going to figure it out as we have this phone call, right? But this went on for like 10 minutes. I'm thinking, I don't, who is this? At first I thought he was trying to sell me like cable television or something, and then I figured out it was this guy. It was the responsible guy that I didn't like. And I thought, why are you calling me? We were never close. You irritated me. You had ambitions, and I was not ambitious. And he said to me, finally, so did you ever graduate from college? And I said, yeah, I did. And he said, that actually surprises me. What kind of bothered me was, I'm thinking to myself, now that you mention it, that sort of surprises me too. He said, what are you doing now? I said, well, I'm a university professor. And he said, didn't you have to go to like graduate school to do that? I said, yeah. He said, that kind of surprises me. And I thought to myself, that surprises me too. Well, where are you teaching? I said, at Lee University. He said, I don't know the university. I said, well, it's in southeast Tennessee. He said, wait a minute, you mean you crossed the Mississippi? And I said, yeah. He said, well, that surprised me. I thought, that surprised me. He said, well, tell me about Lee. And I said, well, Lee is a small church or a school, Church of God school. He said, you're teaching at a Christian school? And I said, yeah. He said, that surprises me. And I thought, that surprises me too. I gotta be, and this is not false humility, I'm kind of stunned by all of this. I've reached, unfortunately, a stage in my life where I can kind of think about things in a context. And first of all, I gotta be really honest with you, there are a lot of days that my faith level is kind of dragging. But the only way I can explain that I'm here is God. I'm not yet quite sure if God doesn't have a sense of humor and thinks it's pretty funny that he's inflicting me on you, or what, But I don't understand how this happened. To be truthful, every time I ever have to take one of those strength finders things, I'm sorry, but for the things that this is not what I'm supposed to do. I have no people skills at all, according to some of these things. And I've taken several of different kinds over the years, but and those of you who know me may be thinking, well, they're right on that one, but that's what there's no people. Shouldn't be teaching, shouldn't be doing this, shouldn't be doing that. And I don't understand this. As I said, when I was thinking to myself, yeah, that kind of sounds strange to me too, I really mean it. But you don't care that much about that anymore, really. I really feel fortunate to do this. I really don't think I have the kind of skills that it takes to excel. I look at my colleagues, Jason Ward and John Coates and Drew Bledsoe and Randy Wood and Dan Hoffman, and I think those guys are really good at this. They had a plan. I didn't really have a plan. The way this all turned out really is really kind of bizarre. So, for me to talk about this is appreciated, but still something I don't quite understand. But I do know one thing. I have come to some conclusion. I've actually been thinking about this. One thing that I know is I really like these students. I really like these students. And I look forward to talking to them about all kinds of stuff. And to be really also honest, there are a lot of times I'm talking to students about things and I'm thinking to myself, you think that's a problem. The real problem is you think I can help you on this. You think you're having difficulty, you have more problems than you think you could possibly realize because I'm the one you're talking to about this. But I like the fact that we have a chance to talk. And I actually find that I get a lot from those conversations, I think, myself more than I think they get from me. I really feel blessed to work with these guys. They're not all perfect, at all. But I've also seen possibilities. I've also seen enough examples of people who, in fact, have sort of been written off. That I know that this works. And I think you guys know that too. I don't think I'm telling you anything you don't know. And that's kind of kept me humble in terms of the role that we have. I believe that what we're doing here is the best and perhaps last hope of things getting better. I have this horrible tendency, it's kind of a masochistic thing to watch politics. And I watch this stuff all the time. And you know what? If we do build a wall, I hope there's a way to get out. Because come with me, we'll go together. You know? But you know what? This is the world these guys are going. You know, if you think about this, what we're teaching are a whole lot of young people that will have an opportunity to vote for the first time in their lives, at a time that politics is defined by unkindness, irresponsibility, you know, just the kind of things that you just think are just horrific things. And so one of the things I've really begun to embrace is that part of my job is to try to teach them to be citizens, to be engaged. So, you know, I've kind of decided that my role here is a little different. On one hand, I think I get the opportunity to be blessed by people who God has given me the opportunity to interact with. And I'm not just talking about you guys, I'm really talking about students as well. Not that you're bad, but students are. But I found a new kind of reason to do this. Now, as far as the numbers are concerned, you know, I just kind of do what I do. And I not that long ago, I had a call from someone who was about to start teaching. It was late in July. She was going to teach in public school in Chattanooga, and she said, you know, I had you for a class, and I just am really nervous about this. So I wondered if you could give me some suggestions, you know, because I'm kind of seeking advice. You know, is there anything you can say? And I said, I replied this email. I said, well, I still get nauseous, and even today I get nauseous for every class. I get sick for a little bit for every class, although not as violently and actually as I used to. And I said, I don't have the same number of opportunities for having, you know, the little voices in my head going, in the middle of class going, if I were these people, I'd get up and walk out because this makes no sense. But I've decided that's not a bad thing because, you know, I kind of realize, you know, this is what it is to teach. You're never going to be great. Unfortunately, there are such things as really bad teachers, but you're never going to be great at this because you're never good enough. So she responded almost immediately. I've got the strong feeling that she was on the other end of the computer just waiting for wisdom. And what I got back from her was, thanks, I think. So this may be a kind of thanks, I think. But one of the things I really like doing is I like kind of having the opportunity to talk to students and have them talk with me and talk with one another. You know, I think it's a great opportunity for them to learn from each other. And I think sometimes what I'm really doing is just kind of giving them a forum for that. And so if I have 120 students, you know, what we got is a greater chance for having that interaction. And that's good. I try to have some sense as to who they are. So I look at their pictures and try to remember names. And it was easier, I think, when we had CRAs because I had all this information. I could say, you know, so you're, and they like the idea that you know them, and you all know that. I mean, that's just a kind of sign of simple respect, I think. That's kind of hard though, I mean, anymore because the CRAs, you know, we don't have them, so you have to kind of pull this information from different sources. And sometimes whoever's taking the picture, you kind of think, oh my gosh, I don't want to get on the same plane with this person because you know, it looks like dangerous. But I think if you can somehow figure a way to convince them that you really are trying to engage, that's a good thing. Now, Carolyn said, I figured you weren't going to use PowerPoint. So I need to tell you that if you hear that I'm using PowerPoint, that's a sign of the end times. I think you might also interpret, you know, Revelation that way. And he shall use PowerPoint and everybody should pack up and be ready to go. I don't do that. I really like the idea of interaction. Contrary to popular belief, it doesn't mean I don't know how. I just don't want to. And I'm not even, I'm not even convinced that there wouldn't be some things I could do better. And I try to do new things, and I really do. But this is not one of them. because I like the notion of human interaction. I think that's part of the challenge in a larger class to connect with people. And I appreciate the fact that you said, you know, they feel like I'm talking to them, because I really make an effort to do that. But I try to interact with them in such a way that I create an opportunity for them to get to know me too. So I kind of talk about, it's really easy to do history because I can incorporate some of this. I don't use my own life this way, but for example, I talk about my father during the Depression. And I try to suggest to them that, you know, one thing you always should do is you should talk to people and learn their stories. Because sometimes you just don't have the luxury that they're going to be around forever. And I try to somehow connect history to what it is to be human. I really got to tell you, you know, I think the folks who teach math, oh my gosh, how hard would that be? I mean, think about this. How do you make math interesting? That's the talent. I mean, I asked a guy, and I probably shouldn't admit this here, but I asked a guy who was one of my mentors a long ago. I said, so how do you do this? He says, sex, drugs, and rock and roll. You can just incorporate that in some place. I know you have to adjust and leave, but how do you do that in math? I mean, I don't know. So I feel, you know, I'm pretty fortunate because I teach a discipline that is lends itself to this kind of thing. Although I must tell you that I hated history. I hated math, but I hated history even more. I just got to tell you. And so it's ironic that I kind of end up doing this. And I actually probably got to also say that I really love teaching the survey classes, because I love teaching kids who hate history. You know, I mean, isn't that fun? I mean, you know, just to say, you know, if you can get them to sort of appreciate this. And so I look forward to those classes. Now, I've got to tell you one other story. And I'm going to tell you this because it's come up twice today. And I'm telling you this not because it's a trick in teaching. I'm telling you this because I want you to know that what we do here may actually work. You know, we all have colleagues who teach elsewhere, and sometimes they think what we try to do here at Lee is kind of an absurd goal. You know, I remember I had a conversation with these two women who teach at UNC Asheville, and they have a strong kind of suspicion of Lee. And I remember I went to a conference and they came in and they said, oh my gosh, I can only, you know, one of them said, I can only imagine what it must be like at Lee, because we now have to have 12 hours in our offices. And I'm thinking, well, you know, this was when we had that little, I won't do that again. But those of you who have been here, you know what I'm talking about. The rest of you, I never said that. But you know, the idea that you're supposed to interact with students and you can actually change people and you know, taking time is a big deal. So I got to tell you a story. I had this student, I guess it's been 7 or 8 years ago. His name was Andrew Gonzales. I don't know if any of you had Andrew Gonzales. But Andrew was in my 212 Recent American. I can actually tell you exactly where he was sitting. I actually remember exactly what he was wearing that first day. And he came up after class and he said this to me, I ain't gonna do no studying. And I said, oh, come on, you can do this. I ain't gonna do no studying. I said, I think we can, you know, I think you can do this. He said, no, I said, well, why are you here? He said, because my grandma, I promised my grandma. So I said, where are you from? He said, just outside of Myrtle Beach. But for the last 5 years, I've been in prison. So my response was, and I thought this was actually pretty good, this class can't be any worse than prison. I remember that. I bet none of you have ever had to compare your class to prison. You know, I felt fairly secure saying, if you thought prison was bad, this is going to be, I didn't think that was going to be. So I said, what do you like to do? He says, I like pain. By the way, he was gonna be a youth ministry major, you should know that. And I said, what do you mean you like playing? Well, you know, he liked to do that fighting that, you know, is bare knuckles and they do it in a round circle kind of thing. So, I said, well, let's see what you do. Well, every class he'd come in and he'd put his head on his desk and he'd fall asleep, he'd wake up halfway through and he'd walk out.
Hmm.
And then about halfway through the semester, he just disappeared. And I thought, well, he really wasn't here anyway, so. So I don't know, maybe 18 months went by and we were having registration. Jeff Golden was still here who taught humanities. And he came up and he said, met a new history major. And I said, really, what's his name? He said, I can't remember. Kind of an interesting guy. He's got like tattoos on his fingers and a kind of a buzz cut hair. And I said, Andrew Gonzales. And he said, oh yeah. He said, you know, he's a real pain to try to advise. I said, why? He said, first one thing, he's doing history. He says, because he only wanted to take classes from you. And I said, well, did you tell him that I don't teach all the classes in the history program? He said, no. English, science, math, that's right. So I thought, you know, here we go. Now I announced to my colleagues that, you know, that guy I told you about, because one day he actually wore to class a T-shirt with a Confederate flag that said, it's a white thing you wouldn't understand. And that day was a day that I just happened to decide to talk about things like issues of separate but equal and the 14th Amendment and all this kind of stuff. And he had strong opinions about that, which he didn't hesitate to share. Oh my God. So I'm thinking, how does this happen? You know? Well, Andrew became a history major. My colleagues who I'd told about with Andrew, I described some of the things that I had encountered with him, thought, oh my gosh, what have you done? And I frankly didn't quite know. But I can tell you that Andrew was a complete adventure. I remember well, he came in one Thursday morning early and he said, did you ever see the movie Scarface? I said, another movie coming by. He said, I want to be just like that guy. I said, no you don't. He said, yeah. That next afternoon, 5 o'clock Friday, I remember this like it was just yesterday. I'm thinking I'm the only one in the building. I'm pretty sure I was. And Andrew comes in, and I sit here, and he sits here, and it's important you know that because the door's here, and he's between me and the door. He said, you know, I wanted to kill this guy today. And I said, what? He said, in the student union, you know, in the student center, I wanted to kill this guy. And I said, you know, no. He said, I think, you know, I think I need help. And he said, and I think I'm demon possessed. Now, I said, you know, I know there are people with deliverance ministries, but I'm not one of those people, but we can make some calls. And I'm trying to call anybody I can get, anybody I can get. You know, remember I told you there are those moments where I think, if you think you really are in trouble, you're talking to me, you have no idea. That was one of those moments. Well, couldn't find anybody. One of my colleagues said you should have called the police. I said he didn't do anything. I'm sort of thinking to myself, I knew I should have left earlier. You wouldn't believe how many visits I made to Alan McClung's office, just begging him, he'll be okay. And Alan liked this guy. But eventually what happened was he got tossed out. And I remember all I wanted him to do, I kept saying to him, would you just put your fist down? All I want you to do is give this a chance. Put your fist down. I mean, it was, you would have been so proud. You know, my students were used to Andrew. The history majors were used to Andrew. So we'd have these conversations, and he took this environmental history class, I remember this really well too, and we were talking about the importance of sunlight, and he said, well, you know, in terms of depression and stuff, and he said, well, you know, in Stir, we only got like 1 hour. And nobody batted an eye. It's like, well, okay. And somebody else said, well, you know, when I went on this cruise, one of the things, I mean, it's like, it was so good. And I was trying desperately to find something he would do. So, you know, I noticed he doodled in class. I thought, aha, art. So I called Mary, you know, and she really was good with him. But, oh my gosh, you know, it's really, really, really hard. Well, eventually, he kind of did something that was very serious, and he got suspended, and, you know, I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of help him through this whole thing. And I think we all do these kind of things. So I don't want you, this is one of those things I think we are good at. But I want you to hear this story because I want you to know there's a reason that maybe you do this, even if we can't imagine. So Andrew got himself in some trouble, and he was out of school. So I'm trying to figure a way to kind of help him. So I got him a job at Jimmy John's, and he lost that job because the guy who managed the place at the time, Mike, said he got mad at somebody because they didn't make sandwiches right. They were sloppy with the way they put on tomatoes, and this was a big public kind of a confrontation. I couldn't have that. I said, well, the best I could do was to make sure he had a little bit of money. And the best that he could find with that was the Sun, which is pretty much a flop house place downtown, you know. Well, last fall, I came in maybe 3 weeks into the semester, and the cleaning woman, Bobby Joe, said, she was downstairs at the time, she said, your son Andrew's waiting for you upstairs. Well, see, you gotta know I have a son named Andrew. I mean, biological. So I thought, well, I wonder what he's doing here, you know? And so I go upstairs. It wasn't my son Andrew. It was my other son, actually, Andrew Gonzales. You gotta understand that really was important to me, that he actually felt that way. I have never seen anybody look so bad in my entire life. He had gotten beaten up. Actually what had happened was he was jumped in the parking lot of the Summit that Saturday night. About 10 people jumped him. A woman actually stomped on his throat with high heels. Now, through the wonders of Yik Yak, before long, this is all over among the students. You know about Dr. Barnett's son. And you know, and he couldn't function. I tried to take him in the emergency room. He'd been a problem down there before. They wouldn't look at him. And I kept reminding him, hey, but you got that sign? No. Frankly, tried to call the clinic here, but he wasn't a student, so they couldn't do much about that. And I'm kind of carrying him around like this. And I don't quite understand why. I just thought, well, maybe he's in this horrible kind of condition. And I'm literally holding him up. And when I put him down, he literally falls over. And at one point I'm trying to get him a little money so I can get something to eat. And campus safety comes up, and I'm saying, I got it, you know, because I can imagine. And I don't know what to do. Finally, we get to, I've got to tell you one part of the story that's kind of funny. My daughter Amy had just started at Lee. She was a freshman. Now you got to understand that the very first day after classes were over, I said to her, so how was everything? And she said, great. Only one person I think knows that I'm your daughter. It's so wonderful.
Yeah.
And then she said, you know, it's really hard to be your daughter. And I thought I was doing pretty well. But I understand what she meant, you know, I mean. So that first night that Andrew had showed up, and Amy came by and she said, so what did you do? I said, what do you mean? She said, so what did you do? Everybody's talking about this. All the students are talking about it. Because they, you know, that I heard that, you know, your son was there and he was high. And your son was there, and I said, no, you know. And Amy had, all my children knew Andrew, because if anybody has set the bar for helping kids, you guys have done that. And it's really tough to follow that example. You may have gotten me into this mess. But anyway, Amy knew about Andrew Gonzales because she had taken, you know, a little money to him now and then, run some errands and stuff like that for me for that. So, you know, I said, well, this is not your brother, Andrew. This is Andrew Gonzales. And she said, that's what I thought. Well, finally, as it turned out, and this is, I'm getting to it, I called his mother and I said, I don't know what we're going to do. This is Wednesday afternoon. I don't know what we're going to do, but I got to get Andrew home. And if I need to help with, you know, with you know, bus fare, get you over here to take it back, if I need to do that, I'll do that. But I don't know what to do. I realized that what happened was he hadn't been to sleep since Saturday, because he was convinced that if he went back to the summit, he was going to get killed. And he was afraid to go to sleep because he believed that he had such a severe concussion that he would never wake up. I didn't know all that stuff. So we got him home. Then I couldn't get a hold of him. So I kind of lost track. Well, last semester, I have this guy show up. He said, are you Dr. Barnett? And I said, yeah. He says, you know, this place works. Which is kind of a weird way to start a conversation with somebody you don't know. I said, well, what do you mean? He says, well, I'm Andrew Gonzales' brother. And I really got to tell you, I kind of grew up hating Andrew. We have the same mother, different fathers. He caused all kinds of havoc in our house. You could almost feel when he was coming. It was terrible. And when he came to Lee, I was so happy to get rid of him. I didn't think anything could help him. I actually thought the best thing that happened to our family was when he went to prison, because we didn't have to deal with him anymore. And I just lost any kind of hope that anything would happen. So he gave me a picture of Andrew. Now married, now with a child, now with a job, not drinking, not high, but actually together. And you know, that was a great thing. Now, it happened to be that I met him in this big class, but I can't say that's because I had great success with him, because he slept through everything. I wanted to have a greater connection with him, but in hindsight, maybe I did, because he decided, you know, he wanted to be history major. Granted, you know, I think he was a little bit confused as to how to go about that, but nonetheless, you know, I can't tell you about teaching, because you guys do that really well. I can tell you I like it. I can tell you I think it's more important now than ever before, no matter what you're teaching. I can tell you that, in fact, it gives you a chance to interact with students in ways you can't even imagine. I mean, I've done dorm wars. Oh my gosh. Dorm wars. Have you done dorm wars? Holy cow. They forgot to tell me you have to actually do these events. I thought I just had to wear the t-shirt. Just so you know, if you get asked to do dorm wars and you haven't done it, just remember you're going to have to do something. They asked me to do it again this year. Thank goodness I was injured. The dog drug me downstairs, and I was thinking, I don't think I can walk. So, but I was feeling pretty guilty. So I eventually ended up. This was really funny. I got a call from the people at Keble Hall, and they said, so, you know, you got some of the girls in class, and we were talking about stuff. We're going to do this kind of adult thing. You remember that, right?
Yes.
So, I don't know if they gave you guys the same choices, but the choices they gave me were, we'd like you to talk about something. Either you talk about healthy living, and I thought, well, no, because I don't do that. I'd like to, I just don't. Secondly, relationships, and no, that's an absolute no. Or you can cook.
Huh.
And what you, I don't know, did you get sick with it, where they use, where you, I know you did they use the word yummy? Cook something
I did not
yummy?
think yummy was.
They used yummy, they used yummy for me, and I actually responded by saying, well, the three, I guess I'm willing to do the cooking, although I must tell you, nobody has ever used the word yummy and applied. I'm thinking edible is success. But I said, you know, my son is a chef, so can I bring him along? You know, I'm thinking, use the resources when you have it. So, you know, I had that because I had some of these girls in this big, huge class. And, you know, you just kind of take the opportunity to connect. And I gotta be really honest with you. For a little while there, I was kind of feeling like, oh my gosh. I remember one of the first conversations, I know you don't remember this, but you were telling me how we interact, are supposed to interact with people. This is what the joy is. You know, you go to basketball games, you do all that kind of stuff. And in those days, we didn't have quite as many choices. But I got a little tired for a while. And I think that's all right, maybe. But I kind of got tired of my spirit a little bit. I can't say I resented this stuff, but I I didn't think I could do much more. But I got over that, thank goodness, fairly quickly. And, you know, I started doing things again. And I really like the fact that I got over it. So one thing I have found is when you have lots of students, you know, they have a lot, I mean, I can't go to every wedding and I can't buy every box of donuts because I just don't have that much money or that much time. But you know, I've now found myself sponsoring a sorority. Oh my gosh, did that happen? And you know, and doing these little things that I think just they kind of appreciate this. And I know we're all busy, but I really hope that you will see that this is actually really rewarding. It is time consuming. It's really rewarding. I know everybody does that here, and so I'm preaching to the choir. But I also want you to know that sometimes, you know, you can have connections with people that you can't imagine. I will tell you, just to finish this part. When I went to Keeble, as I'm going in, one of those students is coming in who really, I don't think liked me very much. I think I bothered her by something I said, just hitting her the very first day. And so she is actually going in with a bag from Firehouse Subs. And I said, wait a minute, I thought you knew I was coming, and you have no faith whatsoever in my ability to cook. I mean, you're actually going to get fast food, you know. So, and it turned out, you know, she was one of the ones whose apartment we were cooking in. So I decided, and this is what historians know, you always try to create somebody else you can blame. So I put her in charge of some of this stuff. She said, I have no idea how to do it. And I said, just figure out when it tastes good. Jordan had forgotten about this, my son, so he was, frankly, no real help whatsoever. He taught him how to chop vegetables or something, and I'm kind of winging it. But the next day, this student who had given me such trouble with this stuff, we're in the middle of class, and of course nobody knows what I'm talking about, and I said, so Courtney, everybody survive all right? You know, and she said, yeah, you know, as a matter of fact. And I said, good, you know, and she said, well, in fact, I ate the leftovers for breakfast. I said, how was that? And she said, and I swear this is true, she said, they were yummy. So I come running to the back of Johnson Lecture Hall, and I said to her, and I'm still pretty new with these students, and I said to the girl in the row in front, I said, do you have your cell phone? And she said, yeah. I said, can you do video? And she said, yeah. I said, okay, so I want you to video this. So I interviewed Courtney to make sure that I had evidence that this was indeed yummy. So if I ever get asked again, which I actually kind of hope I will, but I can actually say somebody called this yummy. And it was ironic that it was Courtney who, you know, had stopped for the Firehouse Sub stuff. And now it's actually moved closer down again and is not so bothered. So I think one of the things that you do is you just make connections. And it's, you know, it's a little bit more work in a big class, but it can be done. You know, I gotta tell you, and Mike, I'm gonna speak for you.
Okay.
You mind?
No, I'm afraid,
Okay.
but go ahead and do it.
So, my kids have had mine. And I can't tell you how many times they come in and they show me emails from you that you send with them. And I started doing that more because it's another way of connecting. Because you're not going to get all these people to talk because they're intimidated by large numbers. But both of my children thought, Dr. Fuller and I, we're kind of like this. You know, it's interesting when you're a parent here, if you've done that, it's kind of fascinating, you know. But I actually learned that from you. So I now send out mass and kind of, I don't just completely plagiarize your stuff. That said, there's no citation, nor is there a bib with, you know, Mike Fuller there. But I thought that really was great. And, you know, I guess, I don't know how long we're supposed to go, but I guess it would be interesting to know if you guys have any suggestions, I'd love to hear them. Because that's one that really worked for me. And I saw it work with my kids. And by the way, my kids are hard sell. You know, so what do you think? Any ideas, any tricks, any problems, anything we can talk about? No.
Let me just say one thing from when I observed your class that I thought was really effective that, I don't know, maybe everybody does this and I don't know it, but you walked around the class a lot.
Because I'm scared
and this
to
was
death.
in rows.
Yeah.
So it's a big room, but you're in the back as much as you're in the front. So I think it keeps kids, they're not zoned out because they don't know when you're gonna show up next to them.
Yeah, I actually often just sit in the back and that's where we do this from. And it keeps, because I know what they're gonna do. They're gonna sit, some of these guys are gonna sit as far back as they possibly can. So I just want them to know I know they're there. But honestly, the reason I pace is because I really am nervous. No kidding. To this, you know, I'm thinking that's okay. Just a reality with me. But I think it just dissipates the energy. But I like to be able to get close to them. And I gotta tell you, I probably shouldn't even admit this. But you know, I almost always come in and pat somebody on the back or, you know, because I believe in teaching as a ministry, and I think it's a laying on of hands, and it's making connection. And I know there's probably all kinds of legal ramifications that I'm flirting with here, but I'm hoping to goodness they know what my motivation is. But yeah, I just want them to know that they do try to kind of run a little bit. And to be really frank, I'm kind of thinking this semester I've got to, you know, this is the thing about teaching. Every semester is new. What worked last semester doesn't seem to work as well this semester. But I got one class in particular that I'm thinking, what am I going to do with these guys? How am I going to get them? However, you know, I've had probably 6 or 8 of them just come up because they want to just talk. And one of the reasons I was almost late getting over here, is I had these 2 students who came and just said, we just want to talk.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's great. And I, you know, it's one of the joys of being here. I think it's some evidence that at least I'm touching somebody that I didn't think I was. But yeah, I do that.
Do you make those connections just outside class, or you're able to make them inside?
Oh yeah. I try to, you know, you never want to run. I mean, Walmart. Oh my gosh, that's first of all. That's is this not because we joke, we see each other all the time at Walmart. We have a weekly. You know, 3 of us just get together and talk. But yeah, you know, I think that, and they're really fascinated to see what we're about. You know, for example, earlier this semester, I was in Walmart, and I was talking to one of these students who I think was a little surprised that I even knew who she was. And she's having this conversation with me, but she's looking in my cart. And I think she really wanted to, because have you not noticed they kind of think, you mean you actually have a real life, And we're talking, she's talking, she says, there's nothing in that cart with any redeemable nutritional value. I said, well, if you get at that, you could try. But that's, I think the idea that you're sort of human is a great thing, and I like that. I do think they're fascinated by us a little bit. Gives you a chance to talk, but absolutely. I can't go anywhere where I don't see these students. In fact, I can honestly, I don't think I can go anywhere. I've seen them in the airport in London. It's just not true. I mean, every place. And what a great thing. You gotta learn that you don't really have a life here. I mean, in terms of a private life. Because if it works correctly, I think you have this conversation.
Mhm.
So, I don't know about you guys, but I think that's all right. I guess if I was trying to get away with something, that would be problematic, but I'm actually fairly dull about stuff like that, I guess, so. Anybody else? Nothing? Isn't it wonderful to be here? Really. I mean, we work hard. I had a conversation with somebody not too long ago and I said, oh my gosh, I'm so overwhelmed. I've got like 57 students. And I thought, bless your heart. But I love having students. I like that. I mean, I don't have to have as many. You guys don't. You could cap stuff differently than you do, but you just do this. And you know what? I actually think that these students, most of them, get that eventually. And I think that's really terrific. So, if I haven't really got a chance to meet you, I'm kind of sorry it's under this circumstance. Because then you're going to go, I'm not talking to him anymore.
Let me just say a couple things before we go. One of them is, when I was vice president, the biggest problem I had during registration was Bob Barnett. I mean,
in a lot of ways, probably.
Completely. Because he would never have a limit to his class. So he let 10 more people in, 20 more people in. He's running roughshod over the department chair and the dean, just having these hordes of people come tell us, no, Bob said I could be in his class. And then, so we'd get him in a bigger room, and then he'd admit 50 more, and then we'd have to get him in a bigger room. I mean, this went on throughout the whole 12 days of registration, so huge frustration. And the department had this strategy. If he would just cap his class, we could demonstrate that we need an additional faculty member. But he won't.
I heard that. Wow. Yeah.
So the department chair was going and saying, don't let anybody else in his class. Don't override anything. Don't let anybody else in his class. I'm like, okay, well, there are 100 people outside my door trying to beat it down because they want this class. So anyway, he's honest when he says he doesn't care how big his class is. He's literally honest. And he would meet them on the soccer field, I think, if it meant he could get more people in there. The other thing I think is illustrated by the interaction that you said you had with Andrew, which I think is quite realistic. I don't think you were making it up, but
I've got a picture. I mean, I actually have a picture. I can show you Andrew. I got a picture.
But I think it's important the way you, whatever Andrew says, you don't get freaked out by it. It's like, you don't maybe be surprised or whatever, but I guess not judgmental, not judge him. So if he says he's not going to study, like, well, you can do this, or not coming back and being offended or putting up some kind of shock reaction to that, but kind of going along with it and trying to build on whatever thing he says to you.
I'm pretty laid back. I have children. I've been offended many times by them,
Tell them how many children you have.
Well, I actually have 5, but I'm now raising a 9-year-old, and during the time I've been at Lee, I've had a whole bunch of people who live with us. And some, again, this is your example, I think, really, But you know, some for as long as 10 years, and so it's really fun. I got to tell you this story, and a lot of them from a lot of different places. When my mother passed away, I had been in England. I had come back a little early, and it was in the summer, and I was teaching summer classes, and she was this was just before she died, you know. So we're kind of waiting to see. And I said to the students, I had an early morning class, I said, you know, if I'm not here by 8:15, I'm really sorry. It's probably something that happened to my mom, and that'll be a sign that probably you can go on. I hope that this doesn't disrupt anything, but, you know, and they were so sweet. Every day they came and said, how's your mother? And I'd say, well, you know, she's doing all right, you know. Yesterday wasn't a bad day. And about 2 weeks in the semester, you know, I came in and they said, so how's your mom? I said, well, she died about an hour and a half ago. And they were really angry at me. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It's like, why are you here? Well, I didn't really have any place to go, you know, and I just came. Yeah, but you know, you should be there. And I said, no, I think I'm supposed to be here. I'm trying to explain this to him. I found this really funny. So I told him a story about when my dad died. I said, I had this friend. And I said, you know, his name's Sam Roberts. And I said, Sam is, you know, a Methodist minister. He has a degree in philosophy from Yale, a really bright guy, and I really trust him. When my dad died, I said to him, I don't quite know how to react. You know, my mother kept trying to give me stuff of his. I didn't want that. I was a little afraid. It was my first year at Lee, you know, and I'm trying. And Sam said, let me tell you what, this is really personal. So try not to damage yourself or damage everything. I thought that was pretty good. And I find myself, I'm having this conversation with these guys who are mad at me because I'm there when my mother just passed away, and then they start looking out the window. You know, in humanity we have the tourists with the windows right next to them. And I'm thinking, first of all, I'm having to sort of defend myself, and now they're not even paying attention to me. And they pointed. And you would have to know him. There was Sam, and he had his face pressed up against the window like this, and he was looking in like this. I thought, great. So I opened the door, and you got to understand, Sam, and I can't even repeat the language, but Sam is a unique Methodist minister. You know, Methodist ministers, they can be unique. And what he said was, I'm thinking, great, I lost my mother, now there goes my career. But, you know, I tried to find you, and you were pretty hard to find. So he says, what do you want me to do? And he said, you know, I just had a feeling this morning that maybe something had happened. I thought I should drive down, and I went by and saw the children. They said that, you know, your mother passed. I said, well, would you mind doing the service? Now, Sam had, you know, married my son, done some other things, and wonderful friend. So we had the service, I think it was Thursday that week, 2:30 at the Veterans Cemetery. And about 10 after 2, the phone rings. It's Sam. He says, where are you? And then he stopped, he said, I know exactly what's going on. You're still at Lee, aren't you? And I said, yeah. He said, probably some students came up and said, we don't want to talk to you. Do you have a minute? And you probably said, well, my mother's funeral this afternoon, but yeah. And, you know, and you're still at Lee. And probably, you know, not even on, I said, that's right. He said, do you want me to go ahead and just bury your mother? And I said, yeah, that's fine. And he said, I don't know if that's a very good idea. There are a lot of people here I think would be really angry. I said, how can there be a lot of people there? My mother really didn't know anybody. She had Alzheimer's. And he said, well, all of them are talking about grandma and dad, you know? And some of them have accents. He said, I know you go overseas all the time, but are you leading a secret life too? So, yeah, you know, kind of chaotic family with a lot of kids. And it's kind of wonderful, you know, that one with the accent, Edward, he and his wife, who met because she was living at our house and fell in love and got married, now live in Spain. They came through about 10 days ago, and I got the chance to kind of think as we all gathered. That's pretty wonderful. And being an only child, I'm still confused most of the time, and sometimes I have to say, just a second, is that normal? Is that how you guys are really supposed to act? But they assure me it's okay. So, but lots of kids, it's a good thing. Yeah, it's a good thing.
I hope you guys will stay around and talk to Bob. if you don't know him, especially if you do know him, you may wanna just go home.
Yeah. Bill's thinking 3 cookies is not enough.